Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Social Value in Action webinar, where we discussing the story of Carib Eats. My name is Wesley. On behalf of BPIC, I'll be hosting today's webinar. And on today's we have a few speakers who will be speaking today. So I'll probably start off with Ali to give us a brief introduction, and then go from Ali to Kira to Daniel to Laura. Then we'll get us started.
Hi everybody, my name's Ali and I'm the founder of Carib Eats.
Morning, my name's Kira Guthrie, Social Value Lead at Camden Council. Good morning.
Morning everyone, my name's Daniel Clark. I am Major Accounts Manager at Howdens, working with contractors and social housing landlords.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Dirk. I'm Social Value Advisor at Pelon, and I've been working with Kira at Camden and Ali at Carib Eats with support of Daniel from Howdens. Nice to see you all.
Amazing. Thank you guys for the introductions. So to quickly start us off, Ali will be telling us about how the Carib Eats story began and everything. So Ali, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Wesley. Can you give me like a minute warning? Because I know I've got a certain amount of minutes, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I can chat for England when I'm ready. So just give me a bit of a warning. Thanks everybody for coming on this Tuesday morning. As I said, my name's Ali and I'm the founder of Carib Eats. So I've just got a little bit of time to tell you how that came about and why I started it and why I've continued to grow it. So we started Carib Eats the first week of lockdown, but when we did that, it wasn't Carib Eats, it was just a name. It was just a thing, right? Somebody requested that they were hungry, and I was part of some WhatsApp groups, and I responded to that message, and I just said that yeah, I'm cooking some food, and if that person's wants my food, I'll take it over. Little did I know at the time that this food was the food I was cooking was Caribbean food, and the food that the guy was requesting was Caribbean food. And so that was the start of something. And I remember going over there and delivering that meal. And when I left, I felt two emotions. And the first emotion was gratitude that I was in a position to be able to do this for that man, because I never and that wasn't always the case, right? I don't know if I would have been able to do that a few years before. And then sadness, not pity. I just felt sadness for this guy because overnight all these support systems had disappeared because of lockdown. So I told a couple of friends about it, and then we just started, word got about, and we just started cooking these meals. And I was the driver at the time, and I was just driving across Hackney, and the roads were quiet. And at first, when I was knocking on people's door, they was just like opening the door and then just shutting it quickly, taking the meal. But then after about week 4, they were like saying, "Oh, what are you wearing?" Because the weather was getting really nice. So we did that, and it was needed in our community. And at first, I did have a bit of pushback. I had pushback from people saying, "Why Caribbean food?" And I was just like, "Why not?" You know, there was a lot of people in our community who were struggling and didn't have the support, and they wanted to eat food that was familiar. And so I just didn't even listen to that. I just said, "That's what we're doing," and we did that for a couple of years. And then I got really tired, and I paused for a bit, and then came back with a concept called the canteen. And what the canteen does is bring people together around food and around, so in a nutshell, community and connection. And so we started doing that in Hackney, and we did that around 4 times in different spaces, because spaces are very difficult to get into, but also difficult to kind of keep, depending on the landlord. Anyway, so we've got a permanent space in Hackney, and from there, various projects have come out of that. And one of the projects that we're here to talk about today now is the project in Camden. So a landlord called Lansec, Camden Council, put out let's just call it an advert. They put out something to say, "Hey, we've got this space. We'd like a social enterprise to come in and activate that space." And people kept sending it to me, and I was just like, "This looks like a really nice, opportunity." Very different to what we've done before. It's in a mall, a shopping mall, ex Pizza Express, I think. The only kind of downside was that there was no kitchen in there. And well, there was two sinks. And Carib Eats had to put a kitchen in. We've been given a bit of budget, and never done this before, not got a clue about kitchens, what needs to go where and what needs to do this and that. And anyway, so I then reached out to, I had a bit of a support system from the council, and Kiara was going to probably talk about a little bit how she supported when it's her turn to talk. But I was then introduced to some people, and some of them are on the call today, and I think they're going to share a bit more about why they got involved and why they're still involved, and how important it was to get that kitchen finished. Carib Eats is our focus in food, right? And we could not have a space without a kitchen. So from moving into that space, we knew this a while ago, but most social enterprises start with a passion project. They start because there's a reason why they do that. And my reason was that somebody was hungry and I could do something about that. I didn't like that and I wanted to do something about it. And normally how these things work, how social enterprises work, is that you apply for grants. And it's great if you can get a really, really big grant, right? But you normally don't. You can get a grant for like 5K, 10K and things like that. And some people that might sound, oh, that's all right, just get like 10 of those. But that means then you've got 10 people you've got to report back to. And then you've got to monitor that and you've got to watch it. And it's hard work. So we're in a position now where we are, especially since moving into the building in Camden, we had to start thinking about how can we bring in a traded arm to support our community work. So I just wouldn't, I wouldn't need to be constantly chasing grants. Don't get me wrong, I'll still go for grants, and if you know of any decent ones, send them my way. But we had to really think about how we can bring some money into the organisation. And we've done that by a concept called Cook and Connect. And what we do is we bring teams into the space. And I think Laura might be able to mention a little bit about that when she talks. A team experience, you learn how to cook some Caribbean food, and led by one of our brilliant chefs who is a master in the kitchen, but he's also, he really knows how to get people working. Yeah, so teams come together, they cook together and they eat. I think I'm going to leave it there for everybody else then to maybe share how we got involved. But maybe just before I do that, I am really grateful for the support that I've received. And I think the relationships that I built with some of the social value partners and Kiara, they've gone above and beyond their roles, I would believe. But also it's about relationships, and I'm a heart-led social entrepreneur. And I think in the past people have said, oh, you need to get a bit tougher and you need to do this, you need to do that. I do business my way and I lead with my heart. And I mentioned to somebody recently, I lead with my heart, but I've got a strong back. But I'm very grateful to some of the people on this call, and I'll hand over back to you, Wesley. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ali. By the way, you were within the 10 minutes, so it's all good. Thank you, Ali. Obviously, Kira, on to you. We know Camden were involved heavily in this project, so I'll leave you to explain and let us know.
Morning. Thank you, Wesley. Ali, thank you for the introduction. So yeah, morning everybody, and obviously thank you for joining us all online this morning. Today I just really wanted to talk about something that I think is fundamental to making social value work prevalent, and that's around partnerships. And as a social value lead working in a council and working in a procurement team, I spend a lot of time thinking about how we can move social value from being a requirement in procurement exercise to something that creates like a genuine, lasting impact for our communities and for our residents. Because ultimately social value isn't just about how many commitments we have written into a contract, it's about what happens because those commitments exist. And I think one of the best ways to demonstrate that and demonstrate this is through the real life example that we've had recently, working in collaboration with our key partners. So Ali at Carib Eats, Laura at Pillon, Howdens, Bauer Media, Guildmore and Multi, who have very kindly used their social value to collaborate on this really impactful and amazing community kitchen. So in Camden, we have a food mission, and our food mission's ambition is that by 2030, everyone in Camden eats well every day with nutritious, affordable and sustainable food. But the food mission isn't just about food. It recognises that food connects to poverty, health, sustainability, employment, community resilience and opportunity. Camden describes the food mission as an effort to transform the local food system, working with residents, businesses and community organisations. And that's exactly where I think procurement and social value have had an important role to play. Because when we have significant public investment coming into the borough, we have an opportunity to ask, how can that investment contribute to the outcomes our communities need? But importantly, we don't have to deliver those outcomes alone. So this is where collaboration becomes key. And we I have been using my position as social value lead to bring people together. So this leads me on to the Carib Eats example. And I think, the idea was to create a community kitchen. So this is through our food mission. Ali was successful at being awarded some contribution to support a new community kitchen in Camden. She has got other community kitchens, so I know that'll be part of the pill at the end, because I think it's really important that we bring Ali back in to talk about what support she needs, how you can get involved, and the other areas where you can collaborate to support the sustainability of Carib Eats. But yeah, the idea was to create a community kitchen that could support the local community, to provide opportunities around food and create a space where people could come together and connect. On the surface, you could look at it as a relatively straightforward community project, but what happened next is what makes it really powerful, and I think it makes it a really great example of social value in action. So rather than one organisation trying to fund and deliver everything, we were able to bring together a number of different contractors and partners, each contributing something different. So we had Pillon, who supported with the kitchen fitted and donated white goods and volunteering time. Laura's been absolutely amazing, and she's been pinnacle to bringing all of this forward. She's been an absolute driving force for Ali, but also given me a bit of a kick up the bum to kind of show me and to support me with, getting some really good, impactful social value outcomes on this particular project. So I'm really super grateful for the contributions, but also, taking into consideration that these are KPIs, commitments that Pillon had committed to work with Camden to deliver, and it's just really it's been really lovely to see the level of commitment and drive. So yeah, we had Pillon, who contributed with the kitchen fitting and donated white goods. We had Howdens, who provided a donation and gave their time through volunteering to support with the build. Bauer Media, who contributed a digital advert, which we need to raise the awareness of the project. Ali needed to kind of show community and have a little bit of signposting, and through our digital media campaign, so Bauer Media did all of our digital advertising on digital boards across Camden in very in high traffic areas. So it's been able to kind of reach out and appeal to community, but also just to show residents that it exists and how to access, which is really important. We had other contractors like Guildmore and Multi that use their social value commitments to collaborate and support the project in different ways. So through PAT testing, again through volunteering time. I'll say, like the Tesco's saying, every little helps. And I think that's how we were able to kind of bring this together and bring more people on board. Each contribution on its own was valuable, but the real impact came from putting those contributors together. One contractor had the skills, another had materials, another had equipment, and another had people willing to volunteer. Another had communications and marketing capacity, and the community organisation Carib Eats had the local knowledge, passion, and connection to the people who would ultimately benefit. So this is why I think it's important that we don't look at social value KPIs in isolation. If a contractor has a commitment for volunteering, we shouldn't necessarily ask, where can we get them to do their volunteering hours? We should ask, what do our communities need, and where could those volunteering hours make a genuine difference? If a contractor has a commitment around donations, rather than simply asking about what they can donate, we can ask what is the gap that needs filling. And if a supplier has communication expertise, digital advertising capacity, or professional skills, we should think about how these resources could support a local organisation to achieve something it couldn't otherwise achieve. So going back to, you know, part of Ali's conversation is that she was given a wonderful unit. So this unit was also secured through social value. So this whole model is based on social value. So at the O2 Centre in Finchley Road, as part of our contract with Landsec, we asked for a unit. So rather than asking for apprenticeships, donations, time, what I've really been trying to do is align social value with the core service that's been delivered. So in this case, it was Landsec. They had buildings, they had units. Let's just ask them for a host unit where we can, you know, allow a community VCSE organisation to use the space for free. And this is how Ali was able to get used to the space. I think in hindsight, because there's always some lessons learned as a council, because it was Pizza Express, you were right, we'd assumed that the unit or that the space would be left in a running order. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So this is where the social value started to really show its golden thread approach. And, you know, I think it's one of the only areas that you can kind of bring people together and, you know, create a mutual understanding to be able to achieve something that will provide a legacy and will, you know, be the power of a moving force for an organisation that wouldn't have been able to have done this on their own. And that also includes the council. We wouldn't have been able to have done this on our own. So yeah. So the power of collective, and what I particularly like about the Carib Eats example, is that no single contractor had to solve the whole problem. Actually, I would say that expecting one supplier to deliver everything can sometimes limit the impact that we achieve together. So, you know, even with our apprenticeships, we have an apprenticeship team. I've written a social value guide for Camden Council, which does all of the signposting to help our suppliers to connect with different teams that can support them with delivering social value. And that has really changed the face, and also, you know, increased the numbers of activity that we have happening across all different areas. So creating more social value in action. And I think, you know, we can create environments where suppliers collaborate, then, you know, we're not looking at what an individual can do. We're all of a sudden in a position where we're looking at what 10 individual commitments can do, and what the power of those commitments can achieve together. So we're looking at a collective program of activity, and that changes, you know, from the single activity being done. The collective program of activity then has more of a lasting legacy. As part of the social value in action, it's about the after use and how we can continue to work with those contractors to create more sustainable outcomes and work more closely with our communities and residents. So as a social value lead, I don't see my role as simply just checking what the supplier has delivered. So whether it's like 50 hours of volunteering or provide a certain number of apprenticeships, I think it's about the things that matter. So we need measurement, we need accountability, we need to know whether commitments have been delivered. But I think our role is also to act as a connector and a facilitator. You know, I understand the council's priorities, I understand what suppliers have available, and also understand where community organisations need support, and to help bring those things together, which is what has happened on this particular project. It shows that the most valuable thing that we can provide is not the funding. It can be an introduction, a conversation, a connection, or simply hearing someone simply helping someone see that their social value commitment could solve a problem somewhere else in the borough. So I'm just gonna kind of go down to like the wider lessons, and I think the wider lessons is about what happens when we stop thinking about social value as a series of individual contractual obligations and start thinking about it as a network of opportunities. Pilon's contribution didn't exist in isolation. Howden's contribution didn't exist in isolation. And it became more powerful because they were connected with each other and with a community-led project. And that's what I mean by social value in action. It also demonstrates something important about the relationship between councils and suppliers, that we don't always have to tell suppliers exactly what to do. Sometimes our role is to create a space for them to contribute their skills, resources, and expertise, and to connect those contributions with real community priorities. So I just wanted to leave you with two questions to reflect on today. And my first question is, are we measuring social value commitments individually, or are we looking at how those commitments can work together to create greater collective impact? I'll put them in the chat if I can. Yeah. And my second question is, what is one existing social value commitment that could create significantly more impact if you connected the supplier with the right community organisation, council service, or another supplier? I think that the two questions can change the way that we approach social value, because we don't necessarily need more commitments. We need to make better connections between the commitments that we already have. So just to end, for me, Carib Eats Community Kitchen is a really strong example of what procurement can achieve when we think beyond the contract. It shows that social value doesn't always require a huge financial contribution. Sometimes it's a kitchen being fitted, sometimes it's a fridge or an oven being donated, sometimes it's as simple as pat testing, sometimes it's just someone giving their time, sometimes it's a company using its communication platform to promote a community project, and sometimes it is simply one organisation saying, we have something that could help, how can we connect it to what you're already trying to achieve? And that is why I believe real social value is a team sport. The council brings influence, relationships, and convening power. Suppliers bring skills, resource, expertise, and opportunity. And community organisations bring trust, local knowledge, and lived experience. And residents bring the understanding of what their communities actually need. So don't just ask the suppliers what they can give, ask what we can achieve together, because that is where social value moves from being a commitment on paper to something people can actually see, feel, and benefit from in their communities. Again, I just wanted to thank all of the contributors and collaborators that are on the call today that have been able to bring this vision to life. I think that it's a really lovely example and a legacy piece of work that we hope to continue to show and demonstrate throughout our social value offers and initiatives in Camden. And if there are any contractors on the call today that are looking for areas to contribute and to collaborate, not just to Carib Eats, but to any of the other initiatives that are happening in Camden, then I welcome you to reach out. And I just wanted to thank Wesley and the BIC for hosting this today and giving us the opportunity to present, for Laura at Pilham for creating and opening this door for us to all come together and have this conversation. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Kira. Thank you. That was very, very, very inspiring. It also shows the importance of partnership working as well. So thank you again, Kira. And also, just before we move to our next guest, just something from BPIC. We also have a site labor supply with upskilling enterprise called Building Professionals, where we focus on supplying diverse labor to sites and also helping getting local people some jobs. For those watching, those that are online with us, we'd love to work with you and your organizations, especially around social value initiatives. So if that's something you are interested in, feel free to reach out to myself or to Amos, and we'll be happy to work with you. With that being said, I'll just move on to our next guest, Laura, who's from Pilon. So, Laura, over to you.
Hey everyone. I do have a bit of a visual aid to share, if I may. But bear with me because it's a bit technical, isn't it? Can everyone see just that one slide of photos?
Yep, we can
Can you see that, Wesley? Perfect, cool. I just wanted, yeah, to kind of showcase some of the bits that I'm going to be talking about today. So yeah, as everyone said, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's really special to have you all here and to be able to talk about this. Whenever I speak about this project in particular and Carib Eats and just the collaboration in general across kind of Camden and Howdens and everyone, I really worry that I'm not going to give it the justice that it deserves. It is so special, and it doesn't happen all of the time in social value. So when it does, it deserves to be kind of spoken about and shared and used as an example to kind of to do better and to do kind of what you spoke about, Kira, of like seeing things kind of more holistically rather than transactional. So I want to talk about this project from a social value lead perspective from a contractor. So we get requests all of the time across all of the contracts that we're working on, and sometimes it can feel a bit overwhelming as to kind of where to focus time and money and budget and resource and all of that sort of stuff. So it is a case of prioritization, but also, as Ali said, I'm very similar in the sense of like leading with my heart. And this is a job where, fortunately, I'm so grateful that I am able to do that and channel into things that just feel right based on community needs and kind of what we have available to support in certain areas. So the first time that I heard about Carib Eats was through a request from Kira at Camden Council. And I could see that as a list of needs that they had, it was huge. As Kira said, what they inherited was not what they were expecting. So kind of everything that they needed was, well, a lot, from the kitchen, appliances. There was a whole list of donations required as well. So I looked at it and I thought, what can I do out of this list? What can I actually do? And I knew we were really early in our mobilization as well with our contract. It was a new contract with Camden. So from a commercial perspective, I knew that I didn't have an awful lot to play with, but I knew that I had my commitments to fulfill, and I had to kind of bear in mind how this was going to sit internally from I guess like a budget, a budget decision. So I was like, right, what can I do maybe to start off with that's free? So I said, okay, well, we can at least do a kitchen survey. We can at least come and, have a look and see what it is that actually needs to be done. And at that point, that's when I lent on Daniel at Howdens. So my approach through social value, this was the first time I'd actually lent on a supplier. From a contractor perspective, we are mainly direct delivery, so we don't work a lot with subcontractors, and inherently we don't then lean on our suppliers as much as maybe we could. So this was an example for me, or an opportunity for me to reach out and kind of see how that collaborative approach could really make a bigger difference, basically. So I called Daniel. And I'd been told from some people internally, like, oh, don't get your hopes up. Don't expect too much. Like, not from Howdens, but just in general, like, this isn't going to be an easy conversation. So I had myself prepped, and I was going to explain everything to Daniel about what I saw in this vision. I spoke to Daniel, who's with us on the call. He'll speak just after me. And I said, look, there's this project, really need some support. I'm not really sure what we're looking at here, but I just need someone to come with me and do a kitchen survey for me. And then let's cross that bridge when we get to it as to kind of what we can do after. And instantly Daniel was like, yeah, we're there. where is it? Who do you need? What do you need? I'll sort it. So he put me in touch with the depot closest to Camden. We organised a site visit, and we had Tatiana from their local branch come in and join us and put together a kitchen survey, during which she was doing her work. She was doing everything, measuring it up. Me and Ali had the opportunity to talk, and we spoke at length about, wow, culture, connection, each other's lives, kind of how she got to this point, the visions for Carib Eats, my past. Like, we got deep, considering we'd literally just met. I don't know, just the way we were able to kind of resonate with each other was so special. And the way that Ali spoke about Carib Eats, you would have heard today, is just from a place of real authenticity and just genuine wanting to kind of like make a difference. And I bought into that massively. That I walked away and I thought, okay, there's more we need to do. And that's when me and Daniel were speaking about how we can kind of maximize on the budget that I had, the social value that he could deliver on, which again he'll speak more on in a moment, and how we could really maximize on what I had available and how we were going to make this work. So long story short, from that site visit to kind of opening day, we were able to help with the installation of the kitchen, and on top of that, I really tried to get the word out and lean on the contractors that I knew were also working in the area, help with kind of getting the word out there of what was still needed, because I knew that I couldn't do it all, but there were other people in the world that could. So yeah, that's kind of how it all transpired. And it could have ended there. It could have easily have been a kind of a wonderful project in silo to just that. However, as I said, like the connection that kind of I built personally with Ali, but the overall working together approach, I don't know, it felt special to me. And so since then, me and Ali have kind of stayed in contact, and she came to me, don't know, a couple of months ago, with the idea of Cook and Connect. And as you mentioned, Ali, it's a kind of team building exercise of a cooking class essentially. But knowing Ali, I knew it was more than that, and I knew I needed to experience it. So I agreed. I was like, yep, let's do it. Like, let's do the first pilot of it. So I went back to my team and asked for the investment. I said, we have to do this. And my approach for that was, I kind of got everyone I knew in the area, my closest kind of client social value leads as well, to come together to basically experience Carib Eats and also see what this social value approach looks like in real life. So the picture in the bottom left with everybody together, that was a mixture of other social value leads from contractor side, social value leads from client side. There was other local enterprises, social enterprises there, just to be able to see, okay, this is like a space we can maybe use. Can we work with Ali in the future? Like, how does this work? There was lots of questions, lots of conversations, and we were able to sit down after we'd cooked these different meals together, and have a real conversation about social value and collaboration and how we can do things differently. And I know off the back of that, there has been, sorry, I'm just going to time check because I feel like I'm waffling. Lots of kind of conversations that have come off of the back of that as well. And I know that through these conversations inspires kind of more action and other outcomes. And that's what, to Kira's point of having these conversations and building these sorts of the network within social value, you learn about different ways other people are doing stuff, or your perspective of how you can achieve not just tick box KPIs, but how collaboratively, as a collection of commitments, you can really make a bigger impact. And my approach is always, if I can team up with somebody, or if I can add my pot to something else, like we're going to make a greater good, basically. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at today. I continue to work with Ali through volunteering, general kind of cheerleading, and as much as I can with any of like my background is in marketing, so I do my best to kind of give feedback and give support from a marketing perspective as well, and also just push it out there as much as I can, because I really think the snowball effect of what Carib Eats can achieve, and yeah, what it can do for the communities in Camden, in Hackney, and who knows where else. Like, it can really grow and yeah, bring people together, which is basically the most important thing for me anyway. But I think I have covered everything. I hope I have portrayed how special and unique this project has been, and personally how special it has been for me. But yeah, I think I will leave it there.
Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Especially the point where you made about how it's good for everyone in social values to come together to share ideas as well. Definitely a good point. Thank you so much, Laura. And then our last speaker, definitely not the least, Daniel, feel free to share.
No, good morning, everyone. I feel like I'm not going to probably add much value or give any justice to what there's already the speakers have given and explained today, but really want you to explain about really Howden's involvement in the project and how it all started for us, really. And it did start with that chance phone call that Laura described of just, can you help us and what can we do? And, you know, many people might know Howden's and know the Howden's brand. We're a national kitchen supplier, a FTSE 100 company. But embedded in our company is an ethos in terms of worthwhile for all concerned. And where that starts with is that we have 880 locations across the UK, and we operate and work in lots of various different communities. And our CEO, Andrew Livingston, wants us to be able to give back to them communities that we operate in. So that conversation from Laura never really stemmed from a contract obligation that we had with a local authority or a housing association. It was, how can we impact? And when Laura explained the project and what Carib Eats wants to achieve, it seemed the perfect fit for us. And it was something that I was able to quite quickly say, yes, we want to be involved. Now, obviously, listening to Ali's story today of how it all stemmed and come from, I never believed at that point that it was the level of impact that we was going to have on the community. I think it's really important that we look at projects like this in the future, because, you know, in public procurement, most obligations are normally financial. It's monetary donation to a fund, and you don't really always see where that money is spent. But actually giving back to community projects like this, I think is where we see the best value given. And at Howden's, we run a number of national programs and support. One of our current programs we run is the Game Changer Incentive, which supports grassroots football teams with kitchens for their communities. But I also think there's a much wider piece that we can support other organisations like Carib Eats, and also continues to support Carib Eats with other partners across the London boroughs that they operate in. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I think the team have really explained everything that went on, but we're just really pleased that we could partner and be part of the project.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Daniel, for that contribution. And again, thank you to all our speakers. And just before we move on to the Q&A, also the Carib Eats also got nominated for the best community project at the BBIC Awards. So it shows you how much of an impact it has made. So once again, credit to you guys. Credit to you guys. So moving on to the Q&A session, we'll open up the floor to anyone that has any questions regarding the project. And then, yeah, so we'll open up the floor for anyone that's got any questions. Roy, feel free to go for it. I don't think we can't hear you, Roy.
Can you hear me now? Was it or
Yes,
still?
yes, perfect.
Yeah, just a quick note of congratulations to everyone involved. It seems as though you took quite a innovative approach to collaboration. I think the question was firstly to Howden's, given that this wasn't a social value obligation for yourselves. Was the route to your involvement part of your corporate responsibility, or was it just an ongoing relationship that you've got with Pylon? How did that connect get made?
I think it's a great question. Where I think initially that was our sort of connection with Pylon. We work closely with Pylon as a contractor on various different projects across London and the South East. But also, I feel that it's a responsibility to us to give back to the community. So within Camden, Howdens have 2 Howdens depots that operate in that location. And like I said, Andrew Livingston, our CEO, embodies giving back to the community. Last year, we donated around about £5 million to various different community projects. And it's important that we're giving back to them communities that we operate in.
Okay, that's really helpful. And a question to Kira. For me, as a procurement professional, it's not very often that you hear different component parts coming together in the way that you did for Ali Carib, but it seems as though that's an ethos that you're developing at Camden Council. Would you be able to just touch on how different forces can come together like transformers? Because a lot of the time, bids and offerings are seen in isolation and benefits are reviewed in isolation. So yeah, just maybe some other ideas and some thoughts that we can take away on how we can replicate something similar at other councils or through other procurements.
Yeah, so the first thing that I've done that I think has really helped to change the way that we deliver social value here is that I've created something called a cross-council request list. So we have it on our essentials page, so intranet, and we have all of our different services that can feed into that particular document that tells us about what's needed across the council to support our VCSEs, to support different, to enhance, I'm not going to say to support, to enhance different areas of delivery. And, I think as part of Procurement Act 23, we really want to kind of move more closely to how does the core nature of the contract align to the social value and the services that have been delivered. So I think I mentioned as part of the presentation is that we're trying to move away from just like having standardized items. So we do have benchmarks that I have also written for the council. So, at each contract, we'd expect to see a return of X. However, that is reviewed. I have a social value panel that operates fortnightly. And again, I invite different colleagues and officers from around the council that deliver in different areas to contribute. So in short terms, it makes it more effective that if we've got teams that are on the ground, so say, for example, we've got a new contract happening in Kentish Town, we're having some kitchen and window replacements being done. What is it that Kentish Town area needs? So we have a champion from Kentish Town in our partnership team. Ali mentioned Rose. Rose is the partnership officer who worked with us initially on supporting Carib Eats and brought me into the conversation. Well, I was actually brought in through Rose's the portfolio manager, who's called Ali Asker, and that's how we kind of were able to connect. But again, I also think that it's important to have a good tracking platform, so what's been secured at procurement and what is actually being agreed to be delivered. And then, once you've got those systems in place, then it's kind of a little bit more easier to connect. And I definitely think that that's the next step that we are looking at in Camden, of what connecting platform can we have to make it more of an autonomous process, to make sure that organizations are aligning with their organizational ethos when it comes to delivering social value, because I feel that if you're doing something that you're passionate about, it makes it more impactful. Another example is like let's just say like a highway contractor or a construction contractor that's just done a new build. Sometimes they deliver like tons of soil to sites, so that if they're doing greening, do you speak to them about what's going to be done with the leftover soil? A lot of the time they don't have the time to transport it back. Sometimes it's just dumped. You know, can that be delivered to a school? Can that be delivered to a local project? It's just having those conversations and having real-time connections. And, you know, I think this, you know, what we've got here, this platform that the BIC have created, allows us to come together and have those conversations, but also allows us to connect and mobilize in different areas. But just to finish, I have quite an open door policy. You know, I invite all of my contractors to have open conversations. I can see a few contractors online this morning, and you know, I know, because I have had conversations with them already, that they are aware of, you know, how open we are to wanting to collaborate, but also negotiate on different KPIs to make sure that they are realistically achievable and that we're supporting our contractors to deliver in the right area. I'm a great talker, like Ali. I could probably chew your ears off about social value all morning, so I won't go on, but I hope that that's answered the question. And if not, Roy, then please take my email. Welcome to having a conversation.
Yeah, thank you both. It's really helpful.
Thank you, Roy, for that question. We have another question from Feliciana. Feel free to ask.
Thank you all so much for the presentations. It's really been very insightful. And coming from like an interior designer's perspective, I just wanted to ask the question, like, so for a small creative business, which works across interior design, creative education, and community projects? What are the most effective ways to demonstrate and measure social value when partnering with larger organizations or public sector clients? Because I have put a few bids forward in the past with like Peabody and Havering, but I've not had success yet. So it would just be nice to get your perspective on how to stand out, and also, yeah, what is my best foot to put forward when approaching large organizations and public sector clients?
I think anyone can answer
Yeah,
that.
I'm happy to come in. You know, for me, I think research. So I've worked on both sides. I've worked at Camden, I've worked at Haringey Council, but I also worked for Mullally for several years. So for me, I think the most important thing is understanding your client, understanding the locality, understanding the demographic, and being honest. Being honest about what you can do, being honest about what you can deliver, and not over egging it, because I think that that's where things can start to kind of change course. That if you're not being honest about the things that you want to commit to deliver, then when it comes to us reading the tenders, I think sometimes we kind of I think we look at so many, we can sometimes see which ones are really connected or have really done their research to understand the importance. So for Camden, what I will say is that we make Camden and we have 4 key priority areas. And I think any contractor that's bidding in Camden, it would be their advantage to understand what that means to our communities and residents and how that can support your response.
Can I just add to that? So I support Pelon on our bid writing from the social value perspective, and I think when you come from like an organisation which, when you're up against similar organisations, you need to kind of focus on the thing that's your standout. And I think we're at a point now where if you're looking at cost and quality and social value, it's going to be the social value element that kind of gives you that edge that kind of Kira's talking about, and giving evidence, I guess, into the fact that you have looked into the local organisation, what it is, what is their priorities, what's their strategy, what is it that they're focusing on, and being able to adapt your offering based on that, but also detailing like your expertise and like what you can bring that's different to other people that you might be kind of up against. So that's what I tried to focus on, is like, what's our expertise, what are their priorities, and kind of drawing the dots together on that element. Because when it comes to cost and quality, it's kind of on par. There's not a lot in it. Social values where you can kind of make the real difference in your tenders. So from my perspective anyway.
That is really, really helpful and so informative. So I'll definitely take this into consideration going forward. And yeah, not overselling myself and adding more social value inputs and showing more examples as well when I'm pitching and sending my decks out. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Evidence is key.
100%. Yeah. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Feliciana, for the question. Does anyone else have any more questions before we move on? No, no worries. We'll just, before we close, we'll move on to our pledges. So I'll just briefly pass it to Ali very quickly.
Thank you. This has been really interesting for me to kind of, when I spoke first, and then sit back and listen to everybody else, and just see how kind of things materialized. You know, Laura, Colin, Daniel, and then Daniel sending Tatiana and having that conversation, and then having a conversation with Kira. It was a team effort. And something else I'd just like to say is that this is really my first foray into social value, and working with the council, working with Landsec and various partners. We all talk different languages, and it's really important that we get up to speed and understand that we're all coming from a different place, and it's okay to it's okay to say that. And that's what I have learned with this particular project, and take that moving forward. So my pledge is really a couple of things. The first thing is that often people say, how can we support? Can we come and volunteer? And the most obvious thing is, yeah, come down to one of our days and you know, help serve food. And we get a lot of that, and we're all right with that. But where we don't get a lot of support is in the background. And so for me, one of the pledges will be to really help us with marketing. In order for us to be sustainable, we need to bring money into the business, and we've got that offer. So I really would like to work with the marketing team to be able to offer that, help us package it, help us print it, and help us get it out as far as we can. So if there's anybody in your teams who they've got that skill set, and you know, we could have some of those volunteer hours supporting Carib Eats, that would be really helpful. I think two other things. The second thing is, somebody mentioned, I think Laura mentioned, so we've got a base in Hackney, and we've got the base in Camden. The base in Hackney is a community centre, and it needs some love. I'm really pushing for it to get a refurb, and the reason why I want to have a refurb is to be able to do the work that we do in Camden, want to be able to do that in Hackney. And at the moment we can't. The kitchen's too small, the layout is not great, it's not welcoming. They want me to take this space. They want Carib Eats to take the space over full time, and in order to do that, I'd have to bring in an income in. And at the moment, we can't do that because of how it looks. So really looking for teams to come on board with that. And lastly, speak to anybody in your department who oversees team experiences. I don't know if that's HR, if that's, you know, your diversity department, whoever that is, put me in touch with me. I'm just gonna put my details in chat. Send me an email, but equally send me a WhatsApp. I respond to WhatsApps pretty quickly. And yeah, thank you. And lastly, come and visit us. Come and visit us down at Carib Eats on a Thursday. We have a lunch together at the canteen. If you get there for around 12:30, you'll definitely get a meal. If you get there maybe at 1:30, you might, because we always sell out. But thanks everybody, and give us a follow on Instagram, Carib Eats LDN. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ali, for that pledge. So that's us for today. Thank you all for joining us on this webinar. And again, thank you to our speakers. Thank you to Kira, to Ali, to Daniel, to Laura. Thank you for the insights you brought to this project. Once again, thank you. And once again, thank you to everyone that's joined us. And we hope to see you again on our next social value webinar. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you,
Ta-da.
everyone. Bye.